Hello, I'm Boz, and I'm co-owner of Boz Saddlery with my wife Annie. And for years, I think we have now a total of 450, 500 different items that we custom build in our shop. And so many different customers have always wanted to know how to adjust this and how to clean that, basically how to ride it. So what we're going to try to do today, the best we can, is to come up with some steps on how to fit the pads, how to adjust the saddle, where it should sit. Then I'll go get a horse. We're going to show how it goes on the horse and do some riding, show you some different things. And it's kind of like we call the system of Boz U-Edit. This is really a small company. It's a family-owned company. We've been doing it probably for about, well, I've been doing it since 1975, so over 30-something years that I've been working on this stuff. I worked with a gentleman named Monty Foreman, without a question, has done more for the horse world than anybody I've ever met. And he taught 95,000 students. Out of that, 22 of us became instructors, and I believe there's only 2 or 3 of us left in the world today. So you'll see with our technique, and I now have changed it and added things and my own thoughts, and came up with a new system called Bozzage, B-O-Z-Z-A-G-E, and it was designed to be 95% more effective than dressage towards training a top performance horse and a super rider. And we're going to show you, because of the gear and our technique, why I can help you and your horse get 95% more. Without saying much more, I'll just start going through some of these things we have hanging up, and this is just kind of a quick thing on most of the things we use. The saddle tree is a major change in saddle trees. This tree is so scientifically designed, there's never been anything comes close to it. And I say, my slogan is, a wooden saddle tree will only fit a wooden horse or mule. You wouldn't pick wooden shoes to compete against me in different sports if I'm wearing Nike tennis shoes, and you're not going to have much chance on a wooden tree with us in a flexible tree. But this particular tree here is hollow and designed in a way and cut out, as you can see the side view when we cut it out, at the bars, and you can literally twist this thing. If I put it against my body and lock the front, you can see that the rear end will twist and the front isn't moving anywhere. It twists with the animal's back and moves. It not only does that, but if the back was solid, then the front will twist with him back and forth. It also will give longitude and bend both ways, and it also will give through the pommel, the only saddle in the world that the pommel will change different shapes. It takes 3 minutes for it to change to a horse's shape, and it takes 15 minutes after you ride to gain and go back to its original starting memory shape. That's why we call it a Boz Springflex Airflow Relax Fit with memory. Relax Fit meaning it will get into a shape and the molecules relax. They're not trying to come back and cause problems. Too many saddles out there today, they're trying to do it with rubber, and if you took a rubber and tried to twist it, it won't relax there. It's trying to come back, so there's a tremendous amount of pressure on that side to come back to its shape. This one will relax over a period of time in 3 minutes and stay in that shape, and then slowly start crawling and coming back. So that's where we get the Relax Fit. It goes to the horse, relaxes. It doesn't try to pinch and go back to its starting, and then when you get through riding, it takes 15 minutes for it to crawl back and go to its original starting shape. The other thing we can do this if they want to, I give them the option. There are some people that say that they have a rigid tree and they don't have problems. We can take this if they wanted to, and I would send them a casting agent. They will cast the horse's back to their horse's back. They send it back. We would put it into a machine. We take this hollow tree that I designed and put it on top of the mold that they sent back. We'll suck all the air out and make this thing draw down to whatever shape. Let's say that the shape, I'm going to bend it. Let's say that the shape was like that. That's his horse's shape. And we'll hold it in that position, and then I'm going to pour the entire inside of this with Kevlar so it stays in that shape, hard as a rock. And then I'll build him a saddle. Or we'll leave it alone and build a saddle and let it move and change to each horse's back. Now, depending on what I do, if I cut this out or not, I can make them stiffer 10 times stronger than any roping saddle out there today. So we can go from solid, we can go an extra stiff, we can go a stiff, we can go a medium flex, and to a super flex. This is a super flex where things are cut away, that things really get moving for that customer that absolutely wants it. Okay? The next thing is we have some little covers on a saddle that I use. It's a little bareback saddle, and we'll get into that with a horse. And these little covers for people that want to ride in shorts, whatever, they slide over these English leathers and kind of protect their legs if they're riding in shorts. These are the array of pads, colors that you'll see that we're going to use on this saddle when I bring a horse back. You'll see that the saddles that we have here, and these are working saddles. These are not new saddles. These saddles I've probably been using 15, 17 years. There's two different style seats. If you look at this seat, it's a pleasure seat or a level seat all the way back, and that's for a person who has a bigger booty. And then we have what we call a performance seat, and if you look at a side view of this one, the back half is built up and the front half is low, keeping a person that's not as big through the tail end, keeping him forward towards the withers. They have ways that we can attach the different pads, peel and stick, and we'll get into that. And then we have pads that go down prior, or you can just ride with the saddle by itself. With that in mind, I think what we're going to do is I'm going to go get a horse, bring him in here and start putting some gear on and showing you how to adjust it. And then we'll have, and then I'm going to take him to the arena, and we'll start doing some riding with the little bareback saddle and see what you think. Okay? Okay, we talked a little bit about these pads. These are specially designed by our shop, and they Velcro and stick to the bottom of the saddles. We have the pile of Velcro here, and the hook is on the saddles. As you can see, this set is a standard 1 inch thick. You could peel those off, put in 1/2 inch thick, depending. You could even do, if a horse is out of balance, you could put 1 inch on one side and 1/2 inch on the other side to even out the saddle. You may have a saddle that's kind of high in the back and low in the front or whatever, and we get into wedgie pads. In this particular case, this is 1.5 inches in front, 1 inch to the rear. So what that would do is bring up the saddle in the front and level out that seat by putting on that set. You just peel and stick them. They come in plain, and if you have plain, you just put it on the horse and ride, and then you just wipe them off and go that day, or you can wait till the next day and they're dry and buff them off. They come in sheepskin attached to the bottoms, and a lot of people will consider this. And this goes on, it's a little bit more to clean them after you take them off the horse. Or they put the pad prior and put these on. You don't have to clean them so much, Some people want the air to get through the back, and so they don't want the pad. The other thing that's really unique is that on these pads, let's say that you had a horse that got a bite or something in his back. And this pad is on, the saddle's facing this way, and this pad's on the right side. And in this particular area, as you put the saddle on his back, there's a big old bite, and you want to relieve that. What you can do is you can take your pad off your saddle, put this down on a 2x6 or 2x12. We take it and show you how to make a little cookie cutter, and you put it on and you pound it. And when you do, you can pop this center out. Now when this is on, and then you can feather these edges if you wish, and when you put that on your saddle, that's going to relieve that spot on that horse. Okay, until he starts to heal up. And then when you ride the other horse, you just go ahead and you stick your punch back in. I don't think there's another saddle out there that gives you that option to be able to do that. So you can do it anywhere. You can custom sand them. You take baby powder and you put on the horse's back. You lightly dampen these with a wet washcloth, just enough water. Set it on, take off the saddle, and if you see a white area here, that the baby powder, but it's black here and here, you sand the high area. This is the raised area in the center. You sand that, wipe it clean, put your saddle back on, take it off. It's getting bigger, it's bigger, till finally it's perfectly white, both the left and right one. That set of orthotics, folks, that belongs to that particular horse. Every time you ride him, stick him on your saddle. It takes about a minute, and put the other ones away. It's a great system to be able to fit any horse with this tree that molds and change shape, and the pads of, we have over 200 options of peel and stick. I think I can fit a llama if someone challenged me to it. Okay, that's the question. That's the deal on pads. Okay, what we're going to do is I'm going to show you what this tree will do. I'm going to bend it in the shape. I'm going to bend it crossways and get it to flatten out. And the purpose for this, I'm going to show you when I put it on this horse. Can you get up here and show this? Can you get through there and see that? I want you to see by me bending that how I made it bridge. And if that was a piece of wood, it would stay in that shape and only point hit in the front and the back. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this tree and I'm going to start working it. And watch how I get it to form. Same tree, we haven't changed nothing. Look at that. That's what I mean. Look at that fit everywhere. In that short a time, it will change. It will not only, they say, well, will it dig in? Will it dig into the loin back here? And I said, how can it if the whole tree can work its way up? How? That can't dig into nobody. Okay? It also will twist left and right for his rear end. As his hind end goes up and down, this tree will twist left, right, left, right. If it's a solid piece of wood, it's going to slide left, right. Their saddles go like this all day long, buffing instead of being able to twist and turn left, right, left, right. The pommel is in one place. I'm twisting the back end of the tree. Up, down. That's what would happen on his rear end. But in that short a time from a tree that you would think was bridged is now a perfect fit because it's hollow in through here, the can on the pommel. It will take shape to the shoulder and everything through it. It will not bridge. It's impossible. And it will flatten out for a mule, or it'll get as hollow as you want for a horse that was a Three Stooges. Okay? Now we're going to get a saddle and put on his back. But I was just showing you how that tree, from a bridge tree in 5 seconds to a tree that would mold perfect, and it'll do it to a draft, it'll do it to a Morgan, it'll do it to anything. It takes 3 minutes for it to stay in that shape. If you stood there and rode this for 3 minutes and got off, it would be in this shape, and it would slowly start crawling back to its normal shape out of the mold. Okay, let's go ahead and take one of these little saddles here and set it up on our horse. We'll take this little Sport Agility. For those that want to use a pad, here's a pad that we designed. Let me get him over here where you can see him. Get him sideways here. You can see the horse. These special pads have a Velcro center that you can change the inserts and pull these inserts completely out, wash it, put them back in, and go. And we put different thicknesses in here and on the saddle. You put your pad up, they're designed for this saddle, and we put our saddle on. Okay, this is real important, folks. These stirrup leathers are V'd. This is a secret to our system. The V, they're not hung underneath the seat way back here on the widest part of the barrel. You're to find this straight edge, this 3-inch here, make it perfectly vertical with the sky, and this line in front draws and falls right in line right behind that elbow. So you put that saddle up accordingly, that when this straight line right here is behind this elbow position, if you were to turn that stirrup and put your foot in it, your foot is directly behind the elbow of the horse, and your calf is locked in right here in the rider's groove. It is not back here, folks, like dressage or any of these other saddles, that you're on the widest part of the rib cage and your feet slide back into the flank and it tips you on your nose. The purpose for having forward hung stirrups, straight down and behind the elbow, is when you stand up and go forward, now they're underneath you. If they start out in the middle of the seat, like these so-called counterfeit saddles are built, and you stand up and go forward, you'll push the stirrup back behind the seat, your toes are pointing to the dirt, and you're hanging on the mane for security because you have absolutely zero balance. The top riders in the world, may it be jockeys, jumpers, agility for polo, and saddle bronc riders, 100% are forward hung stirrups behind the elbow. They are not hung back. And the security comes from V'ing them like this. If you take and hang them on top of each other like in English, they'll get wiggly. And if they're hung back here like the Western or style, which they call it other things, they're wiggly. Once you V them like this, then it stops and they lock in position. And if they came back a little bit, they would be in the middle of the seat. They'll stop in the middle of the seat and keep you forward. They don't start at the middle of the seat back here on the barrel and end up behind the saddle, and then you're in trouble. You can't guide the horse and hang on too. Okay, so to let you know if your saddle's far enough forward, we go ahead and we put it in that position. For those that like a pad, that's our pad, but I'm going to take the pad off because we can ride this saddle without it, which keeps it cooler. These pads are wonderful pads, but they also will hold in some heat. So I'm going to take it off completely and just put the saddle on the way I designed it. The pad is kind of something extra different. I'm going to put this pad over here by this pin. There, okay. So now what we're going to do, to show you how this cinches up, you can have the saddle sitting back, and if you pull this stirrup straight down, it's not behind the elbow, it's back. You're going to put it up. Start pulling it down, slide it down, until when you pull it straight down from this bolt, there's a swivel bolt. When it's straight down, this edge is right behind this elbow groove. That tells you that the saddle's in the correct position, okay? We're then going to drop the cinch on the other side. We'll take our latigos. Let me get out of the way the best I can. I don't know where to go. I'll reach through. You want to make sure that your cinch is about the center. There's going to be some buckles down, the little rings, and they're about 2 inches that side of center. So when you tighten it up, it'll be the center. When you put your wrap through your latigo, you'll come up. Let me get over here. There's a big rigging ring. It's already attached back here. You go one time only through the rigging ring. You come back to your cinch. Now before you cinch it, you want to make sure that you get a hand's width, your thumb folded in, a hand's width between the front of your cinch and to his elbow. Any closer is going to cause an elbow rub. Any farther back of a cinch, may it be center right or whatever, I don't care what it is, it's going to cause the saddle to swing. Remember, this gap in here is where our stirrup is hung. That's where we ride straight down in front of the cinch. That cinch being behind our leg stops our leg from running to the rear and holds us forward. Anytime your stirrup is hung in reverse, the stirrup is behind your cinch, folks. You're going to slide, your feet are back here, toes are pointing down, and you're in trouble. You're not riding in any balance. I don't care who says that's balanced. The reason why it goes forward, it used to be years ago that the jockey rode back, and he's supposed to get off the shoulder, to get it back from his shoulder to free up the shoulder. It wasn't until an American jockey named Todd Sloan decided to hang his stirrups forward on his jockey saddle, get up over the shoulder, and ride with his stirrups in front of his cinch. They laughed at him until he won 500 races in a row. After he did that, 50% of the jockeys went forward, then 75 were forward, and today 100% all jockeys for speed is hung with forward hung stirrups, not stirrups hung back here. They get more speed than anyone in the world with more security, and it's not been changed for I don't know how many years. It then went over to the jump world. The jump world saw that the jockeys went forward, so the jumpers decided to take their stirrups from here, put them at the pommel in front of the cinch, and moved it up on the shoulder. And there was a cavalry officer in Arizona that jumped 9 feet, was the first go. And from that time on, 50% went forward, then 175, and 100% went forward. And that was for maximum balance. Balance is needed more in jumping than any other system. And they all went forward hung stirrups. Then the polo for agility decided, well, if racing and jumping went forward, what happens if we move the stirrup forward and the pommel in front of the cinch and got rid of this big old hump in the seat that sets you way back here? And today for agility, 100% every polo player riding is the same. Forward hung stirrups in front of the cinch without a big hump and riding on the shoulder. And the last one is security, and that is the saddle bronc rider. The saddle bronc rider needs more security than anyone in the horse world. And again, he's moved his stirrups way out in front. He's really put it up here, and he's riding horses literally trying to buck him off. And 100% every guy out there has forward hung stirrups. So if you want maximum speed at any distance, maybe a quarter of a mile to 500 miles, if you want maximum balance at jumping 1-foot logs to 7-foot logs, if you want maximum agility for either cattle pinning or polo, and if you want maximum security like a saddle bronc rider, or even you folks riding these little green horses that crow hop, it's not open for discussion and it's not open for compromise. It is all forward hung stirrups in front of the cinch, and with this bulkless seat that you go forward, and you can't believe that you'll get 90% more balance, more security, more speed, and more agility than anything you've ever done. Monty Foreman came up with the first Western style saddle doing just that. And by having that stirrup hung there and having the cinch behind, then we went one time through, you would then cinch it up. We're just going to do a quick thing here for him. And then we take, this pin will be sticking out. What you want to do from there is that you want to take this last wrap and start pulling it out, and it will lock that pin. Once it locks, there's three things you can do with this. You can either take this, fold on top half, fold on top to 3/4, and then you can stuff it down inside your cover. That's one. You can do this. You can go to the front hanger and push it through. Monty used to like to do this. And don't pull this so tight that it pulls it off your pin. And it's spread out all three so you have absolutely no bulk. And then I design the rear. What I do is I take it from the buckle. I go against the horse. I come up. I get this strap out of my way. I'm going to fold it up here and just get it out of my way. Okay, I go against the horse. I come out the top one. I feed it down the bottom one. There's 2 half slots. And it locks it, spread out, and my stirrup right here, there's absolutely nothing under it. There's less under our leg than any English saddle ever built, with no rings or cinch rings underneath your kneecap. And it's all spread out. It also helps hold that cinch by coming back this way, helps hold that cinch from walking forward. And that's how you cinch it. To adjust the stirrup leathers, there's a buckle underneath. You pull it out. It has a little spoon. You put it back in the number that you wish. You pull it, and you'll hear it lock, and it'll lock against the tree and stop that stirrup from being able to pull back over. We also don't use a hobble here, because if you use a hobble, it won't let the leather slide through the stirrup fast enough and it'll make a bubble. So what we do is we put a band in front. That stops the stirrup from being able to be swung all the way around, and it lets that leather stay flat and work forward and back and never get a bubble. That's why you never hobble a stirrup leather. To adjust the breast collar, and we need breast collars for a purpose, not just for stopping a saddle from moving back, but we don't want this stirrup to leave this elbow. So what you do is you come to the offside. You have it attached to the saddle, which on the offside there's a ring, a slot in the skirt. You stand in front of your horse, and you're going to see this V come right here. There's a slot that your thumb and index finger would come down, and where they touch right here, that's where the center of this brass ring, in our case, would come around and stop. In this case, it's not to the center. It's coming over too far one, so I've got to come up a notch or two. In this case over here, I'm slot number 5. I walk it around. It stops here. I then come over on this side. I put it on number 5. Instead of going through that buckle, I just come back through that ring, and that's going to be in the center of this junction. And then the bottom piece, you adjust it by coming to the bottom and snapping. And this ring in front here, you pull out, and you should be able to get 2 fingers between this and the chest. In this case, this is way too big, so we're going to take up accordingly on this, that I can get 2 fingers between his chest and lightly pulling out, not jerking it out. Just take the slack out and I get 2 fingers. Any tighter than this will pull this cinch to the elbow. Any looser than this is going to let these things fly. This is our little starter breast collar that the saddles come with. When you finish riding, the very first thing you do before you go do anything, when you get off, you pull the stirrup straight down and look at this front edge and make sure that it's still behind the elbow. If you get off your horse from cutting or reining or doing endurance race or whatever, and you pull this down and this is 3 inches back of this, you must take up on this breast collar to keep this stirrup right behind that elbow, and that is this straight edge. So if I turned it, there's where my leg is. My leg is never back here. It's in front of the cinch and at the elbow. To get a basic adjustment to start on your stirrups, if you lift this flap and put your fingertips right above that bolt or right here at the bottom edge of this swell and come out, that stirrup will come up and the bottom edge will hit you in the torso. That's the start. Then what I like to do is shorten it 2 inches from here. And that's pretty much for me the ideal length. And then from there I'll show you from the saddle how to really adjust it. Okay? Okay, you can cut while I go. Okay, we're going to talk a little bit about stirrups. I have 2 basic styles. The tread width from front to back. The wider the tread, the easier it is to lose the stirrup. The smaller the tread, the more secure you're going to be. And I don't care if you're doing endurance, and I don't care if you're doing whatever. It is a scientific proof. If a calf roper wants to run really fast, throw the rope, step off, run down the rope, grab the steer, flip him on his back, tie his feet up, he is going to use 3-inch or bigger. I call them snow buckets. And the purpose for that is so that that foot slides out of there. He does not want to stay in the saddle. He gets off. If you use that kind of style of stirrup, that big wide one, in endurance or cattle pinning, whatever, you guys end up losing the stirrup so much you spend more time hanging on the mane and the pommel. You can't guide. So it's not good to have big stirrups. We have also 1.5 inches wide, what you'll see on my little bareback saddles, and it's half this thickness. And that's what a polo player uses in a jumper, 1.5 inches. It's not too thick, it's not too thin. They don't want to fall off in a jump, and they don't want to fall off playing a game of polo. They don't want to lose a big stirrup. That's why they don't use snow buckets. So depending on what you want, if you want more security, you go to 1.5 inches. If you want to lose that stirrup and get off, then go to 3 or 4-inch snow buckets, and you're going to lose it. You're also going to lose it when he jumps a 1-foot log out on the trail and you get drug, or you're also going to lose it when he decides to buck a little bit and you lose a stirrup. You can't bend his head to control him, so you fall off and break your arm there too. So don't let him tell you that the bigger is better. And the idea that the bigger is going to stop the burning sensation in your foot, that's not true. If you call me, I'll show you scientifically that that's incorrect, saying that you're going to stop the burning of your foot because of a wider tread. On the smaller tread, the 1.5 inches, you can ride with your heels down below the tread, which tightens up the calf muscle and makes it grab into this pocket and lock. Anytime you see people with big stirrups, they're going to be riding flat-footed. In most cases, their foot is back and their toes are always pointing down. And folks, that's not great horsemanship. That's just being a passenger. You're not doing anything good for your horse or yourself in that position. So the reason why the top riders in the world use 1.5 inches, they want their heel at least 3 inches lower than the tread. That toughens up the calf muscle. That's what we bring in and put against the horse, and that's where our security is. The security of riding a horse does not come from the knee and the inner thigh. It comes from the knee down to your ankle and locked in. And if they don't believe us, come ride with us and we'll be able to bring up some drills that are 3/4 and full blast, and we'll start losing you because the more you pinch with your knee, the more you come out of the saddle. Well, we talked about the adjustment of the stirrup, a general one here. I'm going to go ahead and mount up on the horse and kind of show you. Remember, I got my reins with sticks. The last thing I do before I get on is I'm going to take this martingale, come down the center and lock that. Then I'm going to make sure that my cinch is stout, that it doesn't go around. Then I take the slack out of that, back, lock out that, take the slack and hang this down. I make these latigos kind of long, so if you want to, you can cut them off or you can come back up and kind of do a wrap. Another way that you could wrap this too, and some people like it, I did this years ago, is that you can come in from the front one. Remember we went here, we come to the front one, over the top, and then just come down one of these back ones. And that's another way to lock it in like that, and kind of holds the stirrup piece down. But for now, I'm going to kind of get up and show you when we mount. I mount with the reins forward so I can control. Two, I have the stirrup so it slides off. I don't like mounting. There'll be a part of the tape that I show about the mounting. I rock the horse to make sure he's stable. And then grab this rein, the mane, and then mount up. When you ride these saddles, it's very important that when you sit in it, that from the knee down to your foot is vertical, like this. It's not backslash and pull back here. You never ride like this if you want much done. You're going to go over the horse's head. Great riders ride with it vertical, and you stand up and go over them. You never pull them back and do this, and then all of a sudden the horse puts on the brakes, and where's everyone go? It shoots over his head. But even if we did to come back, you notice because they're forward, and we stand up and bring them back, if you draw a line up, it's in the center of the seat. If it had started in the center of the seat and gone back, they're back here, and the toes point down, and the rider's hanging on like this going up the hill, and some of these guys are saddle builders that call their saddle a Western saddle with a dressage seat, and they're hanging on like this going up a hill. Folks, that's not balance. I don't care who you are. You stand up and you go over the hill. You are to lock in when we stand up. If you were to have your feet flat and you stand up in the saddle with flat feet, this is flat here, nothing down, and you look at your crotch will come just to the top of the pommel. That's not the toes or nothing, flat. Now I'm going to do two things. One, I'm going to turn my toes out and throw my heels down. My heels are much lower than the tread. That makes the calf of my muscle hard, and it made me sink down in the saddle 2 inches. And now if I slightly bend the knee and do that, I should be able to get the thickness of my hand between my crotch and my seat. That's the most leg I can have on a horse and still float. I'm still floating with 1 inch between my crotch, but with a tremendous amount of lock and leg, and my legs are going to lock in right behind and get hard, and we turn the toe out to lock in. You never ride with your toes straight. That will make the front end, if I can get this horse to look at you, you ride with your toes straight, you'll see people from the knee down is there's nothing touching. That's not security, folks. You're not supposed to get it from the knee up. It's from the knee down. Now watch when I turn the toe out slowly, bring my calf in, and I lock on. Once I lock on, this is the security that we have that no one else in the world has, and that's why we can outride you, and out-train you, and out-teach you. This is a tremendous security lock for playing polo or anything. We leave our legs there, we stand up and go over them. By no means do we take our feet and pull them back like this and have this backslash. And that backslash, if you're going to stop, you pinch with your knees, and then everyone shoots over their head like a torpedo. That's why 50,000 people in this world today are in wheelchairs just like Christopher Reeves from being taught to ride with a backslash. The great riders of the world always were vertical, and they stood up and got over them. They never moved this leg back here. Never moved it back. It just seems like over the years, through teaching, through whatever, through equitation, everyone's trying to draw this line through them and have this. And anytime we see a rider with a backslash with their leg, we're going to challenge you for any amount at any event, because you'll never keep up with a rider at all speeds in this position here, riding full blast and hanging. Barrel racers go like this, toes pointing down, take rubber bands and rubber band their toes and hang on with one hand and guide with the other. They'll never keep up with a rider that locks on like this, 2 hands and guiding. This rider will outride you every time. Okay? So you remember, you start out with them flat. You're going to come up the top of the pommel, throw the heel at the bottom of your boot and turn your toe out. That's going to put the calf in, and that'll settle you down 2 inches. You were 4 inches to start out. You come down 2. You slightly bend the knee just so slightly, and now you'll get just your hand thickness through. If you do those moves and you're still out by the saddle 3 inches, your stirrups are too short. And if you do those moves and you cannot get your hand through there, they're too long. The real way to do it is to ride without the stirrups and get trotting. And when you get trotting, you're going to shrink up and find that place where you lock on. And when you lock on with your legs, wherever it is, you'll look down and your tread should be the same height. If you lock on there without stirrups and you have to go down to them, they're too long. Or if you lock on here and have to come up, they're too short. And you'll find riders that have stirrups hung too far back. If they ride without stirrups at a gallop, they will not stay in this position, folks. As speed picks up, their leg will go forward and lock on right here, and they're riding, and their stirrup is bouncing behind their leg. It's not even natural to have it there. So now when you're walking around or whatever, with your stirrups hung straight down, when I sit in the saddle, I can see my knee and look straight down and see my foot and my toe, and it should be vertical. I don't want to see this. I'm in doo-doo. I can't get but 1/4% out of myself or my horse. I will see this, and I stand up and go over them at speed and sit back down. That's why we say we can ride on our feet and our seat with no lack of security. The other people, they only have 2 places for balance, if they have anything, that's in the center of the seat or back. They cannot stand up and go forward and pull on the horse's head and left and right without hanging on to something. We never hang on to anything on our horse. And we can stand up here and lock in and stay with this horse at any direction he wants to go. Sit or stand at any time, stand up and pull left and right and reach out here all the way forward and play with his nose, and our foot doesn't run to the rear because of our forward hung stirrups. Anybody with stirrups back starts doing this, their feet will go back in the flank, their toes point down, and on their head they go. So folks, that's not balanced riding. You can stand up and go forward and lock in and do anything you want to do with the horse with no rear hung, no problems with the stirrups running to the rear and teetering you forward. You just walk up, you take and you bend him, you turn him anywhere you want to go, and the stirrup does not run to the rear. I can reach up and turn him anywhere I want to go, and they don't run to the rear, folks. And pull. See, most people can't pull because the more they pull, the more their stirrup goes back and they look like that and they're just falling forward. Our stirrups do not run to the rear. That is a Monty Foreman design. We call it the genuine balance ride saddles. A lot of people call their saddles balance, but they don't get what we're getting in balance. From there, we're going to go ahead and dismantle this gear. We're going to put on the little bareback saddle, and then from there I'm going to take him out in the arena and ride him and show you what we do. Okay, I'm going to show you how I get off, what I do, and how I put the gear up. First thing I do is I go ahead and I dismount. And before I do anything, I pull the stirrup straight down, find this front edge, and make sure that it lays right behind that elbow as if I turned the stirrup and it was in that spot. If I pull this down and this saddle has moved back that far, I got to take up on this breast collar. That is the first thing we do, is to find out if this stirrup is still there. The second thing, I walk up and I unsnap my martingale, bring it up to the center and snap it to my bit. I'll go ahead and grab my rein here, and as I grab the rein, I'm going to unsnap my noseband, pull it over his nose and pull it out so I can get the noseband off of him, and then I just take it and snap it to my bit so I don't have to go find it. It's already there. After I've done that, I'm going to take my lead rope now and attach it to my headstall, because I'm going to drop the bit out of this headstall. So I come underneath, I snap it to the headstall. Now I have my bit. I'll just go ahead and take a couple half coils here, stuff them, get them up out of the way. Now I want to leave the halter bridle, and I want to release the bit. So what I'm going to do is take this snap that's half halter and half bit, undo it, and just snap it to my bit. Do it on both sides. That's going to free up the bit from the halter. Now I'm going to take this snap, unsnap, and I twist this a little bit this way so that mouthpiece lays flat, and walk it right out of his face. Come on this side and unsnap it. I put my snaps back together, and I now have my halter, and that halter is designed not to break. I take my reins, my bit, and everything's attached. The martingale, the drop nose band, everything's attached. I don't have to refeed, and I'll just take it and throw it up here on the horn. Okay? Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to undo this saddle. I'll come here, take my breast collar, undo, and just put it through a hole and just hook it so I don't drag it. That's all I got to do. I'm going to take the center and unsnap it, bring it up over the top of my saddle to this side, and once I get it to this side, there'll be a snap, and I just snap it so it's out of the way. I'm going to throw up my stirrup. I'm going to take this latigo loose. Once I take it loose, this is how I fold it. I come underneath. I take it underneath and come up through the main hole. Come back down. Let me get over here. Get this horse on the other side of me. I went through, come back down, like that. Take this one and just come across and pin it. And the reason why I do it that way is when I go to cinch him up, I take this loose. That's hanging. If I bring this cinch over and I take that leather now, just like it's hanging, and put it this cinch and pull it, watch what happens. I got him. I don't have to figure out how to undo it or anything. So again, I drop it. I take and fold it under and come back up through my main hole and get about, 12 inches or so. Take the bottom, come over the top, and feed it back here to one of those loops. Now it's ready and out of the way to go ahead and cinch. I then turn this horse this side so you can see the cinch. We're going to bring it around this way. I'm going to take this cinch, swing it up, and snap it right here. If this was the wet side, it'll start drying out. From there, all I have to do is take the saddle off, and we're ready to go. The bottoms, again, can either be wiped off. In this case, we didn't do much, but you could wipe them off with a wet washcloth, or you could go ahead and wait till the next day, brush them off with your hand, stick them on, and go ride. There's a couple items we want to talk to you about. This is called Boz Smooth Skin, and it's a leather treatment that I designed some years back that's absolutely wonderful. It will probably do, I would say, at least 75% more than any other leather treatment. There's nothing in here that's harmful. You basically could put it on a salad. I'm not recommending that you put it on a salad, but there's nothing in here that, but it is remarkable what it does for leather. It's taken me years of taking and listening to old timers, and I came up with my own stuff, started making it, cooking it and whatever. And when we do our saddles and harness and whatever, I probably don't have to do it once a year. And you can put this on leather and on your boots and on a leather couch. It softens hands. It's amazing the stuff that you can do with this thing. And it's a wonderful product, and you should think about it by, especially the items you buy from us. It helps that lifetime guarantee is the smooth skin.